Matt was hired in '96, November of '96. And
yeah, 17 years ago.
I was hired in January of '97.
I'm so old.
I actually left for a little while and went to the publisher side, but then came back when this game opportunity came up.
Yeah, I've slogged through the whole time. I've been
yeah, he's been here the whole time,
constantly running.
So are you guys like early employees? Are we talking like employee
We're in the
number
first
3?
wave.
And then if you look at the, people who've been here for 10 or 15 years, like it goes up pretty dramatically.
Yeah,
like
we have
percentage.
25 people that have been here at least 10 years.
Why all the long timers?
Because we won't let them leave. We have ankle chains.
Yeah.
I tried, but they just pulled me back.
Yeah.
So 17 years ago, what do you think the direction of the studio was? What were the pillars of the studio?
The consistent theme has been really focusing on new types of gameplay and really trying to expand kind of the experience for the player. Really focused on the player's experience and making sure the player's having the best experience possible. That's the kind of thread. I mean, if you look across all the games, I think you'll see, we're really focused on story, focused on trying to innovate. If you look at a game like F.E.A.R, for example, and Condemned, we really said, okay, we've been doing a lot of first-person shooters. How do we pull in melee into first person, for example? I think that would be kind of the constant thread.
There's just a lot of really good visceral energy to all of the games, regardless of what genre it was in or how bright and shiny it may have been. They're always visceral.
It's overused as the word visceral.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, like I know, I've used it in so many pitches, but it is one of those things. It's like it's sort of gut.
Kind of brutal.
Yeah. Well, that's another one that.
Yeah.
Brutal.
So you want to talk about, just kind of walk me through the process towards the end of F.E.A.R 2's development and what the future of Monolith looked like at that point and all the different directions you could have gone?
I think the biggest thing to take away was that we did a lot of prototyping, and we really were trying to look at how to bring, again, new experiences to the player. And so we spent energy focusing on, we want to have bigger worlds. The animation system was another area. We knew we wanted to go third person. We kind of done a lot in first person, and we wanted to kind of push out.
We had taken first person specifically with the Condemned ones. We felt we had taken a lot of the first person stuff as far as we could push it. The player body, like getting the melee, getting everything. The system we were using, went all the way back to Shogo, and the engineers really pushed it and expanded as far as they could. But it was at that point sort of a house of cards. Yeah. And so we then started looking at prototyping brand new animation systems, like really looking at, much like what F.E.A.R did with all of their lighting and all of the AI, we were thinking, 2, 3, 4 years ahead. Like, what are the things that we feel we'll be able to take advantage of? And so we had people start working on sort of pushing that aspect of the technology.
Yeah, and really, and like Michael said, really leveraging, our AI experience on F.E.A.R and saying, how do we make this a more personal interaction with the AI? How do we make you interact with so many different enemies in a game? How do we make that more personal instead of it just being, cannon fodder? How do we make every individual AI matter? Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of focus on that. And so there's a lot of, at the higher level, there's a lot of prototyping and a lot of just kind of figuring out. And then it's really the combination of all these things colliding, we hiring in the right talent, having the Platter join the studio, having the opportunity to work in Middle-earth, all these kind of things came together, and we said, okay, let's figure out exactly how we want to leverage all of these things and make the best possible experience we can.
While it was happening, it never really felt like there was this very specific 5-year plan of, hey, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then there's going to be this. There was a much more organic, let's try a bunch of stuff. Let's see how the pieces fit together, and the pieces fit together for Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah. So it's very iterative. I mean, and I know all developers say that, but it's really true. It's never one moment. It's always, this person had an idea, and it's very collaborative.
I feel like if I was smart enough to have actually said, oh yeah, in 5 years, this is totally what we're going to be doing, man, I don't.
He wouldn't be here. He'd have his own island someplace.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So you're talking about like this prototyping phase, and was it just an agreement like, hey, WB, because you were owned by WB at this point, right? And they just said like, yeah, you can keep working on games, but feel free to spend some time cooking up some new stuff?
Well, Warner Brothers has always been super supportive of us, experimenting and trying new things, and I think that they're the best possible partner we could hope for. So I think they're always looking for new opportunities, and so there's, it's kind of complex and kind of hard to explain. So
yeah, I mean, being here the whole time, you always felt like, there was all this, there was a lot of trust in what we were doing, and so at no point did it feel like, oh, we're sort of off doing something crazy. It was always like, oh yeah, we know that you've done all of these good things, and we feel like yeah, keep doing your good stuff.
So were you prototyping with different IP then that WB owned, or how does the IP fit into this situation?
No, the prototypes are always really IP agnostic, and sort of actually even gameplay agnostic. Kevin talked about third person and open world, but that stuff didn't really come on till later. So really what we do is we got so many smart people in the building. We're like, well, where do you think things are going to be, and how do you feel like that aligns with the type of stuff we're making? And the game landscape changes so often, whether it's IP or game types or things like that. For us, it was just about how can we be really agile, take all of these pieces, and then when the right sort of ingredients for the awesome soup come together, sort of jump on that awesome soup and drink it up.
Yeah, and there's other we were working on other products too. Once the IP was something that was, because there's a lot of stakeholders. So once we kind of pitched for it and said, hey, we have a vision for this IP, and we were approved, then it was that's what we wanted to work on. So it was easy. So that wasn't even really like, oh, we could take this one or that one. It was like, what do you mean we can work on that? Yes, of course. Why wouldn't we want to work on that?
One of the awesome things about it is that they have just a huge amount of awesome IPs, and so. We, again, going back to the agnostic prototypes, we knew that if we were making something, regardless of what came in, we'd be able to figure out a way. It just so happened.
But we went out. I mean, it wasn't like it was handed to us. We had to go and say, we want to work on this. This is something we're super passionate about, and please let us work on it. Please, pretty please.
I don't know how much begging to do. maybe a little bit.
You've learned a lot about how to treat IP. And with very sensitive, care holders and stuff like that. Do you want to just talk about learning those lessons within the studio?
Well, all license holders are different, and we're lucky because Middle-earth Enterprises are super committed to this product, and we see eye to eye. So it's very easy. It's very collaborative.
They feel the passion, and that's why you pick things, or you try to pick things, or you try to work with things that you and the team are really excited about, because that passion and excitement sort of bleeds into all of your sort of interactions with folks, and everyone feeds off of it, and it just makes things go a lot smoother. And
so, how important do you think the Arkham games were in pitching Shadow of Mordor?
Because people could really see how you could take a license and make it something that wasn't just a movie game, and I think that Warner obviously, has lots of great IP and wants to have games stand on their own. So I think that made it easier for them to trust that we could make a great standalone game that.
Yeah, they'd already done it, so
they'd already done it. So it wasn't like, oh, you're trying to do something no one's ever done before. It's like, well, you're trying to do something that's really hard, and Rocksteady's obviously a fantastic developer, but at least it's there was a prototype.
And it helped. Yeah, again, it helps that relationship because it's like, oh yeah, this does work.
Yeah.
It is
If you make it, they will
make
come.
A really good game with a really good IP.
Yeah.
Yesterday you talked a little bit about how the studio used to be focused on chasing id and worshiping their design.
Well, no, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay. But that was a good template, I should say. But I just want to talk to you about the idea.
It was more tech.
Sure.
For a long time, id was leading with tech. I mean, that was just factual.
Yeah.
And so I think that we would look at that and go, okay, they're going in that direction. That's probably a smart direction to go into. Yeah. So that's what I meant by that.
Sure. But I wanted to talk about just the idea of opening up the game design and kind of realizing you need to embrace open world. You want to talk about those discussions within the studio?
Well, a lot of that just comes back to the idea of, it's what Mike talked about with just trying to embrace the idea of what do people really want, what motivates people. And, autonomy is such a huge part of that, is people having choice. I mean, people want to have meaningful choice in their games. And, if it's a directed experience, you can have a great directed experience. There's lots of games out there that are great, but it doesn't really feed people's ability to choose what they want to do. So that became the reason that we started to push our tech in a direction that allowed for more autonomy and more open worlds, and our systems became less about directed experiences and more about open world or sandbox, whatever term you want to use. But it all comes back to the same goal of satisfying player choice, meaningful choice, not just do I go down this road or that road, but do I pick this thing and I get a different player experience, a different gameplay experience, or do I pick this thing, and making as much of those choices available to the player as possible.
There was also a lot of just internal excitement from developers. After working on the same thing for a while, first-person shooters, and really pushing those, there's always like, well, what should we do next? How do we open this up? And it goes into that prototype thing where everyone's looking at sort of different angles to push the tech a little bit further or a little bit differently. And definitely when you get, you know, sort of all of the data that says, hey, yeah, autonomy, let's push in this direction, and then you look at your prototypes, you're like, oh, there's one over here, and there's this one, and again, it's like these cool Lego blocks that all start to fit together to make a giant Lego block tower.
With the design of this game, it seems like you're embracing RPG mechanics, and it seems like in your last couple games you've embraced RPG design a little bit more and more. Do you want to talk about that?
This isn't an RPG. It's an action game. I think
certainly
it goes
elements
back,
in there.
Yeah,
right?
it goes back to choice of people want choice, and if you give them a character that doesn't grow, doesn't change, and there's no choice.
Player growth is huge.
Yeah, it's about player growth, and so you know, RPG mechanics are really just choice is all that really means, and so I think that's you know, so this is a place where I do think all action games will have RPG mechanics going forward. I do believe that.
If you look at things like player growth and who's been doing it the longest, I really do feel like role-playing games, whether or not they're video games or tabletop games, like they've got decades and decades of figuring out how to give people sort of meaningful growth. And so you've got to look at that as another Lego block in the tower of awesome. So.
We're not afraid to steal ideas from anybody. Like, we have no shame. I mean, if it's a good idea, why wouldn't we use it? And so, you know, it doesn't have to be created here for sure. And there's huge inspiration. I mean, we look at social games, we look at you know, iOS games, we look at games across all genres, and we'll take any good idea.
So do you guys see yourselves as an AI-centric studio? I think you kind of got that reputation with F.E.A.R, and this game certainly advances that. But do you want to be known as the AI guys?
From a studio standpoint, it's really a balance between design and art and tech. And so there is, I wouldn't say we're, you know, AI kind of implies it's just tech. I think we have strong across all three of those. And so, you know, building our tech internally is a huge advantage because it allows us to really control our destiny, where, you know, we can focus on AI and we can focus on, you know, graphics. We can focus on wherever we feel is the right
basically
approach.
Whatever the game needs.
Yeah, what the game needs.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say we're just an AI studio, though. It's like saying, oh, we're just a horror game studio. We're just a, you know, a comedy game studio because we made No One's Forever. It's like it's oversimplified.
We are funny, though.
Yeah. Super funny.
He thinks he's funny.
We
touched on that a little bit. Is there anything that you guys learned from the development of No One Lives Forever that you're applying to Shadow of Mordor? Like, I think of like the conversations, like over here, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the bringing the world alive with ambient conversations. That's definitely a focus of to help in make the world a living place. There's, you know, you'll overhear orcs talking, and it'll be reminiscent. They won't talk about the same topics, but yeah, we're always iterating.
You're going to see stuff from, you know, the experience of building all of the games over the last 17, 18 years.
Yeah.
Like, you find things that work, and you try to update them and replicate them. And so you'll see, you know, anybody who's played Monolith games will see little bits and pieces of like, oh yeah, I remember something like that. You know, oh, that's really cool. Like, there's threads through it because it's the same folks working on it.
Yeah,
right?
it's a Monolith game. It'll taste like a Monolith game.
Are you setting it up to be a new franchise in your highest ambitions?
Our ambition is to make the best possible game experience we can, and obviously we have lots of ideas and we love the IP, but, you know, it's pure conjecture about a franchise or the future. But yeah,
that would make this one really awesome.
We always set out to make something that could be the next best franchise. That's always our goal.
Yeah. But promise no cliffhangers or anything like that.
I am not making any promises about
none
anything.
at all. You get nothing.
You get nothing, sir. Good day, sir.
That's fine. Just on a high level, I wonder if you can talk about just what this project means for Monolith.
Everything.
Yeah.
This is our future. So this is, there's nothing more important than this project.
Yep. Yeah. I can't even. I can just add an exclamation.
+1.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, really, like the amount of excitement and focus on this is just, it's really awesome. It feels really good to be on this team and working on this project, and you can feel it.